Russia is very cold. That's probably one of the most common stereotypes about life in this country. And it's partly true. While Russia's southern and central regions can be just as comfortable as Europe, the north and the far northeast are known for their harsh climate, but people live there too.
So, what do we have here? The icy beaches of Magadan. Amazing.
In the 20th century, Russia pushed deep into the Arctic and developed its polar territories. Big industries were built here, and entire cities grew around them. But today, many of those cities are slowly being abandoned.
It's kind of creepy walking around here. You look at all these buildings, this rich 1950s architecture.
In this video, I'll show you a side of Russia that isn't glossy or tourist-friendly, but almost unknown. The port city of Murmansk, the remote city of Magadan, built by Gulag prisoners, the coldest settlements in Yakutia, and the dying coal capital of the Russian north, Vorkuta.
Vorkuta is the fastest dying city in Russia. This is a prime example of what happens to Soviet monotowns if they lack everything apart from a so-called city-forming enterprise. In just 30 years, Vorkuta has lost over half its population. At one point, it was the third largest city beyond the Arctic Circle, but today, it is empty. Nobody knows how many people live here. The official statistics don't reflect reality, as many locals have left Vorkuta long ago, but they're still registered here. A lot of workers' settlements in the city's suburbs remain abandoned, which leads to the question, is Vorkuta even worth saving? Is it worth supporting the people that have stayed here, or is it best to just let the city die in peace? It looks like they spared no expenses when they built this place. You can see rich decor. This is a typical example of Stalinist architecture. What's important here is that the houses that aren't abandoned, the ones that are falling apart, they are still there. This is a two-story house. It looks pretty sturdy and normal. Doesn't seem crooked. Getting to Vorkuta isn't easy. Trains from Moscow take almost 2 days. There are no regular flights, and people often get stuck here for several days due to bad weather. I came here at the end of September to see the city before the snow and winter nights engulf it until spring. The first things you see in Vorkuta are beat-up roads, gray surroundings, and a pedestal with an old Soviet Mi-4 helicopter with Aeroflot written on the side. Vorkuta is 150 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, on the edge of Russia's permafrost boundary. The climate here is harsh, cold, and humid, while the skies are always cloudy and gray. These harsh conditions had been preventing anyone from settling here until the Soviets came to power. The Russian government discovered coal deposits here back in the 19th century, so the industrial invasion of the Arctic Circle was practically predetermined. In 1938, Soviet secret police, or the NKVD, founded Vorkutlag, which quickly became one of the largest camps in the Gulag system. Vorkuta owes its existence to the camp's prisoner slaves who were forced into the coal mines. In 1932, the government ordered to build a mine here. Not a town, a mine. Imagine, you're 800 kilometers away, far from here, and you're assigned to develop a resource that's practically untapped at that point, like oil, gas, or even coal. They started building a narrow-gauge railroad here at the end of 1933. It took 145 days to build, from the end of 1933 to 1934. It was ready by the end of 34, this little narrow railroad. The track was 744 millimeters wide, with small, toy-like steam locomotives and 8 platforms that held as much coal as one freight car carries nowadays. How did people end up here? How could they come here? How were they transported here? Only by river. Up the Pechora and the Usai, and the remaining 64 kilometers up the Vorkuta River. To get to this place from Moscow, that took 2.5 to 3 months. For the first 30 years, the city and the mines were built exclusively by prisoners, many of whom died. These are my numbers. I haven't seen them published anywhere yet. For some reason, the data on the camps remains a state secret to this day. Why the hell it has to remain a secret, I don't know. The public got a glimpse of it after the fall of the Soviet Union. The archives were finally opened in the 1990s, and people got to take a look. I managed to find out that the fatality rate of the prisoners that came through Vorkut was 13%. That's more than 200,000 people. More than 200,000. They died not so much of hunger. It was hard and difficult during the war years, of course, but from injuries they sustained while working in the mines. Everything was done manually. People went up and down on foot. Many fell sick, but many died because they got injured in the mines. After the Gulag was shut down in 1960, the question arose, what to do next? That's when the Soviet government decided to offer benefits and higher pay to people working in the far north. Workers poured into Vorkuta over the next 3 decades. One could make a very good living thanks to the so-called northern or polar bonuses. I finished school and studied here, and left for Leningrad in 1989, as it was known back then, and the contrast between the two cities was huge. Vorkuta was great. There were no food shortages, public transport ran on time, everything was neat and tidy and civilized. Leningrad, on the other hand, was abandoned, filthy, and downright miserable. There was a massive contrast between the two. I remember that people got really long vacations here. Everyone had 3 months off, including my parents. We went traveling across the country. Vorkuta always looked better. It was much more civilized and intelligent when compared to other Soviet cities. It was just really good here. Vorkuta was doing well right up until the collapse of the Soviet Union. The country's steel mills ground to a halt and demand for coal fell sharply. Mines began closing one after the other. Out of the 13 coal mines in Vorkuta that Russia inherited from the USSR, only 4 have survived to this day. Left without work, people headed south. This is what the dying city looks like today. All that's left of the oasis it used to be. Like in many other northern cities, people here try and to jazz up the architecture with these bright colors by painting ordinary Soviet panel apartment blocks. Cities with good roads are much better than those with bright buildings, if you ask me. They should have spent that money on road repairs. Then, maybe Vorkuta would be more fun. I need to watch what I'm saying here. I'm used to calling these 5-story buildings when, in fact, they're actually 3 or 4 stories high. I mean, talk about architectural diversity. I mean, what's actually nice here is that a lot of Soviet architecture remains unchanged. The neon signs, the street signs, the bas-reliefs on the buildings, they're all still here. Here's a Soviet-era vertical neon sign that says opticians. You can find this at Gagarin Street 10, and the sign's in pretty good shape. This is still an optical store, and its owners have lined the exterior with siding and put up a new printed-out sign. The new sign's clearly falling apart, while the beautiful Soviet one is firmly in its place. Instead of restoring and repairing the old sign to make it look good, they printed out and put up this piece of junk. You can clearly see the difference in the two approaches, how people used to do things and how they do them now. I wonder what this used to be. Everything's abandoned. This is abandoned. This is abandoned too. It would be strange to expect good roads in a place where everything's abandoned. I really want to say something nice about Vorkuta. I like that some streets, that they don't have lampposts, but they have these lamps instead. They're all leftovers from the Soviet period. This all reminds me of a movie set. Like, if you were at a movie studio and saw set decorations that made it seem like you were in London, this could be a set of a typical Soviet town. You turn here, and that's where the set ends. There's nothing beyond that. And we're back to our Soviet town film set. Streets and avenues. There's a pompous building in the distance over there, along with a monument to somebody. Check this out, though. This is an old traffic light. It's not LED. You won't be able to find this in Moscow anymore. This is a really old, authentic traffic light. This street And these buildings date back to the 1950s. They were built by Gulag prisoners, and, so they say, German POWs. You can look at the architecture and see that 70 years have gone by. And these buildings, they're still standing. They're sturdy. And by today's standards, if these houses were restored and you put in modern communications and utilities and all the rest of it, this would be pretty decent real estate. You can clearly see here how they built houses at the beginning of the 1950s, right after World War II, and how they build bus stops today. These modern bus stops look like garbage containers. This is what garbage dumps usually look like. The bins go in containers made out of roofing sheets. Many homes are abandoned, but some aren't. A few apartments here are still occupied, but the majority are abandoned, and people are leaving. The walls are already cracking here, but there are still people living inside. This is what it looks like from the backyard. It's kind of creepy walking around here. You look at all these buildings, this rich 1950s architecture, the stucco, and everything else. On one hand, it's delightful, but on the other hand, it's awfully sad. It's sad to see all this dying away. This is Vorkuta's old TV center, an old Soviet building that's now abandoned, built in 1958. Pretty affluent for these parts. As you can see, they didn't spare any money on infrastructure here in the 1950s and 60s to at least somehow please the people that worked in these difficult conditions. I wonder what young people do here. They get drunk. They get drunk? So there's not much entertainment here besides alcohol. The artist that was commissioned to make that sign agonized for a long time. He didn't have any ideas. He struggled and struggled, and then he looked at his windowsill and saw a bottle of vodka. That's the shape that he decided to use for the sign. Look at this, guys. Even in Vorkuta, a city with no life, joy, or happiness, we see these fences. Even here, we see ugly fencing all over the place. This won't stop us from crossing the road because there's no other crossing to be seen. There aren't even any cars here, and there are still fences. Abandoned buildings, shrubs, thickets, an old Soviet mosaic, and oh, a new fence! Who comes up with this stuff? Our government isn't capable of doing anything else besides putting up these shitty fences. They'll start putting up these fences in hell, between the cauldrons. It's horrible. Here we see everyone's favorite 5-story buildings. Many still have the original balconies that are made out of wood. Ooh, look at that kiosk. That's out of the 90s. Vorkuta's like a side effect of Soviet ambition. It used to be a prosperous industrial city. Now it's just a bunch of abandoned panel buildings and the occasional architectural reminder of past glory.
That was just the tip of the iceberg. I went back to Vorkuta to take a closer look, and honestly, what I saw in the ghost city and its surroundings was way worse than I expected.
Vorkuta also has the most affordable real estate in Russia. If you go on any real estate website, you'll see that a flat in Vorkuta may cost anywhere from $1,300 to $2,800. In some cases, especially when you look in the towns around Vorkuta, you might be able to buy a house for 1 ruble. Locals have also told us that people sometimes pay others just to get rid of their apartment or sign their homes over to homeless people. While the homeless in Russia are usually exploited in shady deals with shell companies, here in Vorkuta they become homeowners. All this is because of debt and high utility bills. Depending on the flat, you may rack up to $100 a month for electricity, gas, heating, and so on. That means if you don't live here but you have an apartment inherited from your relatives, you have to pay the bills every month. Your debts accumulate. And sooner or later, when you try and leave the country to go on vacation, you suddenly find out that your grandma's flat in Vorkuta has punched a massive hole in your family budget. That's why people get rid of these flats. The local government had a program to buy some of these properties, but that shut down. because they realized that having hundreds of empty apartments draining the city budget wasn't such a good idea. All these homes need central heating, communications, and other utilities, which creates a big problem. If you want to give your friend a gift, but have no idea as to what that might be, give them a flat in Vorkuta. Hand them the keys to a 3-bed in the Vorkuta suburbs. You can give someone a 9-story house on their anniversary. Yes, you can give them a whole house. Maybe not a 9-story, but a classic Soviet 5-story block, along with all the debt. I doubt they'll thank you, but they'll remember it for the rest of their life. Look at how wonderful the world is without drugs. This really fills you with all the will to live. But not here. You go out into your backyard, and this is what you see. Entire buildings are abandoned. And this is right in the city center. All these buildings are empty. What are the problems in the city? In the city, well, you can see for yourself. No roads? They say they're fixing them all over town. But we don't see that in the outskirts. Can you survive in Vorkuta? We'll ask you straight up. Of course, we were born here. We live here now. So you can't? Talk to him about that. I don't think he's from here. You can survive, but that's all you can do. Survive. That's all it is. I don't think I've met anyone yet that doesn't want to leave. No one said that they're a patriot, that they want to live here, that this is their native land. We've heard none of that. Are you going to leave Vorkuta? When I grow up, sure. You don't want to stay? No, I don't. Do you want to leave? I have options, so you do. Have you ever wanted to leave? There's nowhere to go. If the possibility was there, would you go? Maybe. What about you? I'd happily leave. Do you want to leave? Nah. You sure? You're the first person that wants to stay. Nah, I grew up here, so I don't want to go. What's your salary like? It's not much. How much? About $400? You can live here for $400? Why not? If they had the possibility, the majority of people would clearly leave. The people that come here now are doing it for the money, just like in the old days. They still come here to get paid. We spoke to some miners and some other folks yesterday. Salaries here are 2 to 3 times bigger than in the South. The South is the local term for the rest of Russia. Salaries here are higher. A person working in a mine can take home $1,000, while more professional miners can get as much as $1,400. These salaries are pretty rare in Russia. The young people that come here finish their studies in Moscow and St. Petersburg, start looking for jobs, and realize they'll get paid $700 to $1,000 if they stay in either of those cities. But they can double or triple that if they come here. That's why they come to Vorkuta, to these inhuman conditions, to this depressing atmosphere, to earn some money.
Vorkuta is located in the northern part of European Russia, but there are cities even farther north. The largest of them is Murmansk. It's an important port on the Arctic Ocean and also a key naval base. I thought I'd like Murmansk, but it turned out to be a disappointment too.
Good morning. Finally. Look, did you notice that when we were in Finland, in Norway, it was gorgeous weather, sunshine, beauty, nature. Only when we get to Murmansk, there's rain, the gloomy leaden sky that just fell on this city. Now, why is that? It's so that everyone can comment that we arrived at a bad time. We're in Murmansk. I mean, look here. They just threw together all the words that they knew that just associate with something posh and expensive in their mind. See? Wine, boutique, diplomat. No, they're not cleaning the streets here. Oh, never mind. Here's a guy picking up trash from a puddle. Oh, what a beauty. Just when we started to complain. They're renovating the Rodina Cinema. It's a very cool building. I hope that it's going to be preserved in its original state, because there's always this temptation to cover it with some obscure panels, change the paint, put in plastic doors, and then, of course, the design's going to lose all its charm. But I think in this case, they're mostly going to leave it alone. Oh, this is a deserted city. Everything's going extinct. We're all alone here. Wide streets, wide pavements. All right, friends, we just had an incredible trolley bus experience, and I haven't even filmed anything, but I can tell you, while it's still fresh in my head, the first thing that struck me was the amount of advertising on that trolley bus. They're advertising waistcoats on every seat, and there's leaflets all over the place. These guys have squeezed everything they can out of the trolley bus in terms of advertising. This trolley bus system is famous for being the most northern system in the world. The southernmost used to be in Wellington, New Zealand's capital, but it was recently shut down. While in Murmansk, it's still operational. I was starting to wonder if there were tires or rubbish around. Here it is. Jesus, look. Oh, I get it. People are just throwing garbage out of their windows. You think so? Wow, look at this absolute beater. Oh, there's a local. He's going to tell us how this place got so messed up. Huh? Hello? Hello? Why is the rug lying there? Was it thrown away? Doesn't anyone want the rug? I guess it is just half a rug. It's quite a thing going on his head there, isn't it? Oh, that? It's a hat. Really? What's his name? My name is Ilya. Why is there trash everywhere? Because the rubbish dump was over here. Now it's moved over there. About 300 feet from here, right? Well, it's not 300 feet. Well, look how much. One house, two, and that's it? People are just throwing everything out their window now, right? What did you say your name was again? No, wait, alright, this is a playground. Look, if we don't put this into our video, people aren't going to believe us. They'll say that this is like from the 90s, when really this is 2018, Murmansk. Hey, what's going on here? Why is everything so terrible? The apartment management company doesn't want to do anything for us. Doesn't matter how we contact them, doesn't matter where we call, it's always like this. Do people throw trash right out the windows? You can see it's in the bags. Maybe, yeah, some people do that. They don't even clean it up. You got everything under the windows. Then you just go right out of the house and there's a puddle right there. Why is it so dirty here? Dirt! Because the people here are dirty. This is a ghetto. Oh, I got it. Ilya, how can you be so normal here? How aren't you just cursing mad here? So they're really angry at the housing company that won't throw out trash, that doesn't do landscaping. And they just throw the trash right out of the window just to spite them. Huh, it's all clean here. So there's definitely a street cleaner working here and cleaning the stairs. But if you look just behind these stairs, everything is covered in bottles of beer and vodka. On one side, there are amazing views. Honestly, the landscape here is just like in San Francisco. Also, somebody's clearly got the best office in the city. Look! You're just like the director of Murmansk. What's your opinion of this place? Well, I certainly didn't like it at first. You know, the weather, it's gloomy. But coming to the best office in the world with a gorgeous view of Murmansk port, it's really helped me to see that life is just starting here. Alright, so here, by the way, you can also see the Murmansk director's car. So, as you can see, it's terrible at every turn here in Murmansk, regardless of what you're looking at. Doesn't matter if it's landscaping, houses, roads, cars. There's this kind of permanent terrible state just everywhere. But it's interesting. It's interesting to study it. I probably wouldn't want to live here, but it's interesting to explore this place. Alright, so you can tell a lot about a city by its ads, and as well, it's understandable that what people eat, drink, and throw away also tell you about that city. See, here, everything is littered with trash. There's an advertisement, money on the pledge of a car, money for bail, a way out of drug addiction. Hell, even getting a diploma. You see that they had beautiful nature, opportunities, like in Finland, like in Norway. But no one here wants to live in beauty. So here they took it and threw trash everywhere. The chair, the tires, the bottles, the paper. Look at this place. Look, you can't look at this and understand what people have in their heads. Explain this to me. How can you do this? How can you throw away a chair? How can you throw away bottles and still no one's cleaning it up? You know, of course, we can talk a lot about trash, but there's one important point. As Maxime and I are walking along the road right now, I haven't seen a single bin, not one trash can. I understand that you can't just throw trash out, and whoever's doing it is a pig. Sure, it's all wrong, but what are they meant to do? For example, there's a man that's been drinking his beer. He's uncultured, disgusting, and he wants to throw away in a trash bin, but there isn't one. There's no trash can, and no one's cleaning this up. It's a mountain of fools. That's what it's called. You want to know why? Why? You had to go down from here and there was no transport at all, basically. So you had to walk up the ramps to get to the top. The ramps are these stairs. You've probably seen them before. Yeah, we were looking at these dorms and they were such a mess. Oh, you haven't seen mess yet. Oh man, people are really throwing garbage in bags out of their windows. As a bit of background, in the Murmansk region there are important strategic sites for the Russian Northern Fleet. All these sites and military bases are located in several closed cities that you can only visit with special permits. Sometimes these permits aren't even granted to all Russians, let alone foreigners. Because of its strategic importance, Murmansk itself, as well as other cities in the region, have systems of bomb shelters for the urgent evacuation of residents in an emergency situation. But where they are and their condition is still unknown. They say that this information is classified as secret. Here's the one shelter I know. I got no idea about the others. We have no information in the city where we have shelters in case anything happens. You mean in case Norway wants to come and clean up? Well, yeah, but what if a nuclear boat catches fire in Rosoyakovo like it did 2 years ago? We had a nuclear sub-fire in Rosoyakovo. It was fully loaded with munition. That's all. People didn't talk about it. It was just burning. It was burning, and they couldn't put it out for 2 days. They had to flood it. This important northern region and its capital are slowly dying out. People are leaving. This is clearly visible in the census data over the years. In the early 1990s, Murmansk had more than 450,000 inhabitants. By 2006, that number had dropped to 321,000. And in 2016, the city had just over 300,000 people. This situation is the same for other cities. From 1989 to 2013, the population of the entire Murmansk Oblast decreased by 36.5%. The outflow of the population started after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when the country was in the throes of a serious economic crisis. Many regions became impoverished at once, industries closed down, construction stopped, and the authorities stopped allocating funding. The same thing happened to the Murmansk Oblast. You really have to look at the parts where people live and see the conditions they live in. And the working class, as a matter of fact, lives here. An antenna? Yeah, they have their television switched off, but they don't care. They don't pay it, so they got their TV shut off? Yes, look, people live here. Here, you see, the windows are boarded up, but people live there. That's amazing. Yep, they're plugging back in the TV. You know what the best part is? There's the stadium and there's the school. There's a school over there. So wherever there are boarded up windows, people live there too? Well, yeah, somebody probably lives there. There's a playground. That's convenient. You can roll right under the car bumper. People don't have a fridge, so they hang their food out the window. What a mess. Since 2017, the federal authorities have taken on the task of improving public spaces in cities. The truth, though, as it turns out, they don't know how to create a comfortable urban environment. Now I just want to show you this miserable playground that they've built here at Murmansk. The United Russia Party made this comfortable area on Mironova Street, and they brought up the equipment here, and they dug out what was there, soil, whatever, and they just dumped it here. Yeah, they dumped it here. There, you see? And it's all like this here. All right, isn't there a better place to walk through? I just don't want to kill my trainers. No, I'm not sure. Come on, I'll show you. I walk my dog here every day. No. Hold on. Yeah, man, look, I got new trainers on. They're gonna get destroyed in no time. You Muscovites are just so fragile. Imagine going to an outhouse here on a winter night. One man did that and died. So you see people just throw all their trash out of the windows, and that's it. Everything's trashed. There's garbage all over the yard. There's some birds and rats eating everything up. It's all just waste. It stinks. People live here. See? There's a vegetable garden, a jackstraw. There's actually an outdoor wooden toilet. And here's my favorite place to go for a walk, here where the gravel is. And that's where this comfortable urban area starts, the project of Murmansk United Russia. They were very happy. They directly reported that they had built everything here and they finished the project in autumn. You see, they put up new streetlights. If you go to the playground, look at how they cemented it in winter and poured cement into the snow. It was done really badly. Just look at what was left there. This is decent. What's considered a decent house? I mean, decent people live here who more or less pay their rent and bills. The authorities then... Oh, wait, so a decent person just someone that pays their bills? That's a decent person? Yeah. To the authorities, it's already a decent person. Look, this is a comfortable urban environment. This is what they've done. This is what they've invested in. It's just terrible. So this playground was built under our beloved program to create a comfortable urban environment, which the Ministry of Construction promoted across the country. It's here where these clowns with flags of United Russia opened and tried to give the residents happiness. Here, happiness has come out in the form of this miserable playground. And they haven't finished it, as I understand it. They're not going to do anything else here? No, that's it. The happiness is here. I mean, just look at this. Look at this quality. They put everything into the mud, into the snow. The snow melted. Now all these concrete bases they drove into the fence are poking out. We really have such beautiful places in a beautiful city. Well, really beautiful city when it's light gray, pearly, and sunny. You know, you look at it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or morning on a polar day, it's very beautiful. But we live here. We live in a world of smashed windows, and nobody wants us at all. Because those who have funding and power to fix something, they start saying that it's our fault because we don't pay utility bills. Because we don't know who owns these houses. We don't know what management company's here, you know? Then comes a comfortable environment program for United Russia, and they say, what do you want? We made this comfortable place for you. We completed our project. And then they come out and say, we spent money on this city. We made it comfortable for them. And that's what outrages me most. All right, we've arrived at a new location. There seem to be cars parked here. It looks like there are little glimpses in the sky, and I'm trying to take pictures of it. I can't see anything with my eyes, but with a slow shutter speed, the pictures seem to have green specks in the sky. It's almost some sort of light. It's a strange thing, this Northern Lights thing. No idea how it would have been seen without a camera before. It's already appeared a little bit behind the clouds, so we're just waiting for it to get brighter. What's the best time to watch them? Generally, with very good sunshine, somewhere between 7 at night and 3 in the morning. I mean, I hope we're not waiting after 3, because it's really freezing. No, not that late. Oh, thank you. How do you make the stars appear? What do you do to see the stars in Murmansk? Well, we watch the forecast. Just that simple? Oh, I mean, you could have lied to me, said something exciting. So, what's so special about the Northern Lights? First off, it's cold. Second, you can't see anything yourself. You're just filming. And then you have a shutter speed of 30 seconds. 30 seconds later, something appears on your camera screen, and you're like, oh, that's beautiful. And you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to Photoshop these pictures, and it's going to be bright, super bright, and everyone's going to be amazed. Wow, that's a real thing. It's really just a black sky with stars, and you can't see it without a camera. But there are brighter ones, right? Where's our specialist? Sometimes it's so bright that even the earth shines. Tell me, please, how are the lights experts staying warm? Oh, with tea. Okay, so after the tea, that's when the earth lights up? After the northern tea, yeah. All right, how much would it cost me to see the lights again with tea? About $85. Is that with tea? Yeah. The next day, I went on a tour of the nuclear-powered icebreaker Lenin. This enormous thing was built from 1956 to 1959 by about 500 Soviet enterprises. With the help of the atomic icebreaker, the Soviet Union studied the Arctic and navigated its maritime routes. Here is the icebreaker Lenin. There are guided tours of the interior. We're going to go on one to see what it's like inside. There's an $8 door fee, and you can take photos and videos for free. The tour is in Russian and English, which is convenient for tourists, and it costs a total of $25. Let's start with the main room. From here, the whole pulse of the icebreaker's life is set. It was a mess hall that was a traditional center for ship life. Household problems were settled here, the crew was fed, social issues were resolved, and guests were invited. You see that we've had some of the most famous, distinguished guests here. Gagarin was here, a young Fidel Castro. Yeah, Fidel Castro. This is from his first visit to the Soviet Union in 1963. And the icebreaker still functions, right? No, it doesn't. In 1989, the operation of the icebreaker was ended. First of all, what sets it apart is the abundance of wood. In this sense, it is a unique vessel in the Russian Navy. The Soviet government regarded the icebreaker not only as technological progress, but also as a statement in big politics, and the task was defined as follows. The world's first nuclear icebreaker should become a new symbol of the state. Over all these years, there has not been a single architectural reconstruction or restoration. All in all, everything is preserved in its original form. It's not easy. I should say that the icebreakers go to the pole quite often. Now, as I was saying about Kuchiev, he was the first to bring the Arktika icebreaker to the pole. That was on August 17, 1977. Since then, the nuclear-powered icebreakers have been to the pole 117 times. And the rest of the world's icebreakers have visited the North Pole only 11 times. These are mainly tourist cruises. They've been taking place for 28 years, since 1990, and they're still very popular. That is, they're sold out in no time. How much is a ticket? That voyage is going to cost each tourist more or less $30,000. So say I'm very rich. I can just rent the entire icebreaker to myself and hold a wedding? Yeah, no problem. How much does it cost to rent an icebreaker? Well, I can't give you exact figures. Well, what's an estimate? It's about $60,000 to $70,000 a day. Oh, so it's very inexpensive, or expensive, I mean. Well, it's not cheap. It's about $70,000 a day. And how long does it take to get to the North Pole and back? 12 days. Now, if you'd like, you can go up those metal steps, look inside. It's the same whether it's one window or the other. And this is the reactor, right? Yeah, that's the view from the top of the reactors. It's not a very good view, of course, but everything's basically below deck there. Well, the main element inside the reactor, the nuclear fuel, it's a mock-up, but it's life-size. It's called a fuel assembly, and there are 482 of them in nuclear reactors like this one. This amount of nuclear fuel is enough for the icebreaker to operate for about 4 to 6 years. To put it into perspective, if you were to go to the Arctic, an icebreaker takes about 5,000 tons of liquid fuel. That's roughly a third of its weight. That's enough for a month and a half. So this is the canteen? Yes. A third of the crew, or as it is fashionable to say now, officers, command staff, they were fed here in this mess room. Others, plus secondary people, there were quite a lot of them, especially in the first year of icebreaker operation. They were fed here. There are 85 seats, but in the first years, there were so many people on board that we had to organize meals in 3 groups. And there are 4 meals a day in the fleet. That's 12 shifts a day. Can you imagine how fun that was? Like a food conveyor from morning until night. But in spite of that, in the evenings, the dining hall was turned into a movie theater. As you can see, here's a screen and a projector, and everything was preserved in its original state. There are photos that show different episodes. There weren't any live entertainers on the icebreaker, that's why we used movies. So were there women on the icebreaker? Yeah, up to a fifth of the crew. Oh, so everything was okay. Yeah, it was fine. So this room here is called the Power and Survivability Post. It's the center for control and monitoring all the icebreaker's propulsion systems. This is where the crew is regularly manned around the clock. 2 operators, that is, 2 nuclear reactors and 2 operators, each in charge of his or her own reactor. Here sat the operator responsible for the electric propulsion systems. The Americans were actually building their first and only nuclear-powered ship at the same time as us. It was called Savannah, and it was a cargo passenger vessel. And to win this competition against the U.S., something was taken from the first nuclear submarine to save cost and time to speed up the construction of the Lenin icebreaker. We put this entire module, and its controls were taken from the nuclear submarine and built in. There's a bit more space here. Of course, it was more cramped in the submarine. You see, everything turned out quite well. We saved some money. Let's have a look from the past to the present day. This is the second museum on board the icebreaker. It was opened about 3 years ago. Now, with the help of computer technology, you can imagine the Arctic in a virtual form. Oh man, it is warm here. Yes, it is warm. A heater was installed. Do these windows open? Yes. There are these fasteners that hold the glass firmly in place. Sometimes you can tear them off so that the windows will open. But it's better not to do that. They're very heavy windows. It takes 2 people to lift it back up. The glass is designed for the force of the shock wave from an atomic explosion of these reactors. It's very strong glass. And there was a case when the iceberg was hit by such a shock wave. That was in 1961. In 1961, there were the polar explorers that landed on the ice floe of the North Pole 10 station. And after that, they conducted this test, the so-called Kuzma's mother. Nikita Khrushchev did it. There was this explosion, and the nuclear-powered icebreaker Lenin was relatively close by. But the windows didn't crack. So this is what we call the captain's bridge, the wheelhouse, the navigator's cabin, the radio room. So this is how it works. The icebreaker is controlled from here. The wheel changes the ship's course. What's hard about that? What's hard isn't changing the course. The difficulty is keeping the ship on course, because unlike humans, a ship doesn't live according to orders or commands. Ships live according to the laws of physics. Such a huge metal construct weighing around 20,000 tons has a high degree of inertia. Then the task of the helmsman is to extinguish the unnecessary inertia with the helm and maintain the set course. And the second level of icebreaker control is these knobs here. Now, what are they for? It gives the icebreaker a very valuable quality: maneuverability. Maneuverability is the basis of navigational safety. And by that I mean, it's so important to maneuver correctly in the Arctic ice that if you don't move at exactly the right time, or if you move incorrectly, it may end very badly for you. You may even lose a vessel, which would get crushed by ice, as the main threat when navigating in ice is ice compression. To begin with, these winds break the ice cover and millions of tons of ice are set in motion. This is very dangerous. So you have to do something to avoid this ice compression. There's only one way: maneuvering. That is, if you change direction by maneuvering, the ice compression will stop. It only affects the channel made by the icebreaker at a strictly defined angle. But the thing is that in 5 to 10 minutes, the wind will blow from the other side and the compression might occur again, and another maneuver will be necessary. And why does the icebreaker do all this? Because an icebreaker is designed so that ice compression doesn't have these terrible consequences. Why? The icebreaker's hull is so rounded that as soon as it starts to shrink, the ice pushes it out. It rises above the ice mass and then breaks it by applying pressure to it. So, strictly speaking, the very name of the icebreaker isn't quite correct. The icebreaker isn't breaking the ice, it's crushing it. Radio services played a very important role at that time, but now there is no radio service on icebreakers. And so the beautiful romantic profession of the radio operator, well, it died in the fleet. You see how much equipment was here and how many people were here. There were 8 in total on the radio service. Here, all these huge boxes, these chests, all this was replaced by the computer. Tell me, was there any alcohol on the icebreaker? Be honest. Not officially, so you can tell the truth now. It doesn't have to do with telling the truth or lying. It wasn't official. Everybody says at one time or another as an argument that on all types of submarines, operators were given this dry wine, a glass of 7 ounces a day. Now you have to be specific with that amount. They were very careful when they gave it to people because they were dealing with radiation. So for fun, yes, to relieve, for example, psychological stress. Did they give it to you? We didn't get it. But did you have it? I'll put it this way. Everyone solved their own problems their own way. This is one of the 5 rooms in the captain's cabin. The captain's cabin, as you see, was large. The saloon. The saloon, yes. This was where the captain held meetings during his voyage and hosted guests when he came to port. There were a lot of guests, of course. That is why everything is so beautiful here. It's a very impressive atmosphere. Well, that was great. Thank you so much, everyone. Come and visit us again. Thank you very much. Thank you for the tour. It was very interesting.
Let's go much farther east, from Murmansk to Magadan, on the shore of the Sea of Okhotsk. This city has a very dark and complicated history. It was built in the 20th century by prisoners of Stalin's Gulag.
Before coming to Magadan, I expected to see a dying town with abandoned buildings. This, my friends, is the central square of Magadan. There's a church here, some government buildings from the Soviet times. We've got another puzzle here. All the window frames to the left are blue, and all those to the right are white. Any guesses why? It symbolizes the duality of power. Some store their groceries outside the window. No need to buy a fridge. What I find strange here in Magadan is that many public buildings have those really huge plates at the entrance. For example, here, the governor of the Magadan region, the election committee of the Magadan region, the administration of the Magadan region, the federal inspection of the Magadan region. The plates are so huge, I don't get it. Why they couldn't be smaller. They're not super informative anyways, but super ugly. And it's not even the worst example. Some buildings have even more plates at the entrance. Very strange. These stairs were made for people, but people prefer to go other ways. So Lenin Avenue is the main street that goes down the hill with this amazing view. It looks pretty cool. An announcement about the coronavirus. They're trying to threaten us. Look, guys. Look how beautiful it is. Buildings are decorated in a fancy way. However, they're not in the best condition. I see some cornices collapsing, but overall, the housing development isn't bad here. I'm actually surprised to see such beautiful views from here. All these fancy buildings on Lenin Street and Portovaya Street were built in the 50s, so it's post-war housing. This group of buildings was built after war. It surprisingly looks fairly well preserved. You see, all the decorations on top are intact. Such things are usually the first to get ruined. Decorations like this are usually taken away from the top so they don't fall on people. All these decorations are still here and it looks really cool. Honestly, these streets look amazing. Most importantly, it isn't ruined by random build-ups, glazed balconies, things like that. Magadan's a relatively young town. It had its 90-year anniversary in 2019. Here, in 1929, the Soviet authorities built a camp for cooperation with the indigenous peoples of this area. There was only one school and one hospital. 10 years later, the Magadan settlement was officially recognized as a town. This is what the entrances on Portovaya Street look like. While fronts of the buildings are more or less decent, these parts are falling apart. That's a shame. These entrances are really unique. You don't really see stuff like this. It's really rare that so much attention gets paid to the front of a building. Usually they're made in a simpler way. Whereas here, the entrances are really posh. So are the staircases. But unfortunately, it's fallen apart. All this beauty is going to get wrecked very soon. Some balusters are already missing. You see, apartments start from the first floor, and the ground floor is taken by shops. There's a back door to a shop under the porch, and the entrance leads directly to the first floor. That's an interesting solution, but unfortunately the entrances are falling apart. Nobody takes care of them. That's a pity. Oh, what can I say about the urban environment here? There's nothing to say. It's all equally dull. It's Saturday, but the town is dead. There's nobody in the streets. They're either hiding from the weather at home or something else. I don't know. There are only dogs, some cars, and nothing else here. There's nothing going on here. Although, yesterday, on Friday, there was some action. I was surprised to learn that there are a lot of cute cafes and restaurants here, and they're full of people. We went to a steakhouse yesterday and it was packed. Magadan and this whole region called Kolyma was developed for the sake of gold mining. Life here was hard. That's why there were special labor camps here where prisoners were sent to extract mineral resources, build roads, and towns. The first houses that were built here were wooden huts. And now, there are gloomy panel buildings in their place. Typical courtyard in Magadan, of course, full of cars. No wonder, you can hardly survive here without a car. You'll just freeze to death. I'm not impressed by the yard. There's only a parking lot here and that's it. Yeah, just a parking lot, and they sell apartments in this building. This was supposed to be a children's center, but something didn't work out. Something didn't work out. Alright, we just came up with a motto for the Magadan region. Something didn't work out. Also, people like writing philosophy quotes on the walls here. You love or not, There's no way back. Get some bread. All governments are concentration camps. You live in a cage, but the world is your oyster. We're walking out of the yard here. And there's the sea here. Oh, they try to make it look trendy too. The biggest treasure of today's Magadan is the Sea of Okhotsk. Its beauty and natural resources are cherished by locals. Let me show you the coast and what's been done there. The Mayak Park. There's a cool, trendy bus stop here, although it'd be better to have one with heating, but okay, very nice. That bench is for extroverts, this one is for introverts, in case you need some alone time. Oh, what a view. Maybe the most gorgeous view from a bus stop in the world. You can see the lighthouse and the sea from here. Okay, now let's check out the sea. The Magadan region is an industrial area with high salaries, but people still leave this place. They don't like the climate, the fact that the region is isolated from the rest of Russia, and the prices for groceries here. We have serious problems with staff here. A lot of people leave. The north is mainly watch-based now. At least all the mining companies use a watch-based method of labor organization. But when we stopped to grab coffee, I met this girl who sincerely loves her town. We were told you have the best coffee in Magadan. Is that true? Oh, you'll have to tell me. What's your name? Vasilisa? Vasilisa, you are representing the whole town of Magadan now? Come on, surprise us. How's life here? Great. Great. Yeah. Were you born here? Yes, I was born here. And you're not planning to leave? No. We've come upon this amazing view. Everything's great here. The view, the swing. I just have one question. What the hell is this fence doing here? Alright, here you can see, and this is just judging by the number of footprints on the snow, that this fence serves one purpose only, to ruin the view. Those who want to go further, go further. We won't let this fence stop us either. Let's enjoy the view of the famous beaches of Magadan. So, what do we have here? The icy beaches of Magadan. Amazing. And now, the biggest question, is this ice salty? It's the ocean, so the ice should be salty. I'm gonna test it now. The ice is salty. Oh, this must be a killer whale. Wow, what a beautiful composition. It's a really nice sculpture. Surprisingly, modern art is on the rise in Magadan. We've just seen an orca, and here is another famous sculpture, the Rusty Mammoth. It's made from scrap metal, some spanners, gear wheels. It's a curious sculpture to study, unlike those dummies we often see in other towns. Sometimes beautification goes wrong. I went to the Palatka settlement, located not so far from Magadan. The local administration was eager to beautify the settlement, but it didn't go well. We're now in a small town called Palatka. It's located 80 kilometers from Magadan and is famous for its beauty. Some local deputy has decided to make it the most famous town in Russia. He painted the houses, built some fountains. In fact, Palatka is in the Russian Book of Records for the highest number of fountains per capita. In the 1980s, at its highest, Palatka had a population of 10,000 people. Today, it's 3,500 people, so the population has decreased threefold. Whose statue is that? It's actually a monument to Alexander the Great. Look, there are tulips here! There are carnations! That's nuts. Most importantly, all the houses are bright. They use the same colors for all the buildings. Hey there. Do you like all these colorful houses? We were passing by here wondering what people think about this. Are they nice? Compared to what was here before, of course they're nice. Oh, okay. Well, we also heard a lot about your fountains. Yeah, one's over there. They run in the summer, right? There's another one over there, another one over there. Load of fountains. Oh, cool. Very nice. So, you see guys, people like it. We're hating on it while people actually love it. Here, let me turn the camera and you'll see something amazing. Ta-da! A huge lamp. Locals say it's become a bit more cheerful here after the houses were painted, but in reality it's not colorful buildings that make a town cheerful. It's a well-maintained urban environment. For example, the streets are all snowy here. It's so slippery that it's actually dangerous to walk, plus these icicles. Entrance doors are cracked as well as everything inside. So instead of investing in some renovation work or building a better playground for kids, instead of creating a better urban environment, they spent money on all these decorations and all the painting, on these useless giant flowers. Does it make the town more cheerful? I don't think so. People keep living in poverty and nothing's changing. Let's go check out the other playground. It should be cool. They have the Kremlin there. All right, let's ask this kid. I'm sure he's in love with this place. Hey there, why are you eating pine? It's not pine, it's ale. Do you like it here? Those playgrounds, colorful houses? Be honest. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? You think it looks like Dubai here? No? Have you been to Dubai? I've been to Turkey. So everything's good here? Yeah, well, Toya said it was all fine. Fine, but not quite like Dubai. Not yet. So here we have small versions of pretty much everything. For example, there's this little version of the Magadan's mammoth. And most importantly, this poster saying that Palatka is keeping up with the world. Literally, they're on the same wavelength, but I'm not sure what kind of wave this is. That's also a fountain. Many, many fountains here. All these fountains with ugly trash bins right next to them. Well, this is kind of a typical picture that we see here. A painted panel block with a poster saying Palatka is in Russia's book of records for the largest number of fountains. That's nice, yeah, but just look at the background. There's busted up sheds everywhere. As I said earlier, Magadan was initially founded thanks to gold that the Soviet authorities decided to extract here. A state construction trust called Dalstroy was created for this reason. To save money, Soviet authority resorted to free labor, prisoners. Between 1932 and 1957, over 800,000 inmates went through the Kolyma camps. More than 150,000 of them died in camps, but only 10,000 were shot. Others died of extreme hardship, diseases, and exhaustion. It's convenient for the state to have free labor. You can send prisoners to build houses in the far north, and that'll actually work out fine. However, it's impossible without free labor because that requires you to pay competitive wages. Yeah, exactly. There are no manufacturers in Magadan. There are a lot of shops here, a lot of people. The local authorities have created conditions for people to become photographers, stylists, and so on. More and more of them. Although, the town doesn't really need that many of them. Not from an economical point of view. Unless, of course, the town's main industry is mining. The Mask of Sorrow is a monument for the victims of Gulag camps. Works of Ernst Niewieczny are easily recognizable. In my opinion, no one can convey pain and suffering in sculpture better than him. I'd say it's his best work, his way to commemorate the prisoners who died here. So the foundation pits for these houses were dug by female prisoners. I had a chance to talk to one of them. It was a 90-year-old woman, who now is already dead. So she recalls 4 women killed during construction work. There was a multi-level scaffolding, and bags of soil had to be thrown from one level to another. And a group of women on one of the levels worked just not as quickly as the others. And at some point, there was too much soil on their level. So the scaffolding fell down, killing several people at the bottom levels. This building is the first prison in Magadan. Now it belongs to the regional council. This is the regional council's building? Yep, it is. In a former prison? Yeah, every single one of those windows used to belong to a cell. Now the Magadan Regional Administration is behind that building. It was initially built to host the Soviet Secret Police Directorate. So rumors have it that between the secret police building and the prison, there's an underground tunnel, which we're driving over now. But maybe those are just rumors. That's what Gulag camps looked like. The observation tower's real. Everything else was made recently to recreate the atmosphere from those days. And there are a lot of doggies here. Behind the dogs, you can see the ruins of one of the barracks. Those were probably guards' houses. Oh, where are you from, doggies? Oh, look, they're also puppies. Oh, dude, come here. Come on. Come on, don't be scared. What do they eat? Does anybody here feed them? There's so many. What do you eat here, doggy? Harsh weather and lack of jobs led to Magadan's population declining by 40% since 1991. From 155,000 people down to 92,000. While bigger towns managed to keep at least some of their population, there's absolutely nothing to make people stay in small villages. For example, look at the village Karamken on the Kolyma Highway. It first appeared as a tent camp surrounded by barbed wire until, in 1964, ore deposits of gold and silver were discovered here. In the early 1970s, they started building mining and processing plants here, as well as accommodation for the miners. By 1979, there were around 4,000 people living in Karamken, but at the end of the 1990s, the enterprise was shut down. A lot of people lost their jobs and the population started declining rapidly. In 2010, there were only 300 people living in Karamken. 3 years later, there was no one left in Karamken. But in truth, a couple people still live here. Need a pair of kid skis? Why not? Some mailboxes. Jerks. Leave a cartridge. Well, it doesn't seem too looted here. Some things are stolen, of course, but not everything. Yeah, there's some furniture, some shelves. Exactly, it's not like they took everything. In my small town, people used to store potatoes in similar boxes. It's like a potato storage right at the landing. A storage room. You see, all the metal parts are missing, like stair railings. Oh, true. So metal stuff was taken out of here. Yeah, metal was the first thing stolen. Oh, look! You can basically come and live here. There are chairs, other furniture, there's even wallpaper. Yeah, does anybody need a flat, guys? Oh, this room had such an amazing view. Views from either side are absolutely fantastic here. Yeah, a mountain view. Because this place is located in a valley between two mountain ranges. Seems people didn't really pack before leaving. They left so much stuff here. No, that's because they planned to come back here. A lot of people wanted to return, so they didn't take all the belongings with them. Why didn't they come back? Because the village was frozen. There was no heating here anymore. No hot water. Here's another house. Wow, there's a stove here. Look, just fire up the stove and you can live here. A calendar from 2008. Some clothes, old magazines. A whole bathtub. Amazing. They tried Ecoloft here. They were growing some greens right here, or even veggies. They didn't even remove this vintage poster. The Russian flag. Oh, look here! A pack of condoms and a tube of Vaseline. Okay, and any thoughts? I didn't put it here on purpose, I swear. The condoms are new. Alright, someone's up to something. Maybe we scared them. Guacha paint for posters? Surprised they didn't even take their clothes. The latest thing here is a picture of a cat dated from 2009. Look at this kit. Oh, the hospital is closed. Rickets prevention? Hey, you can measure your height here. Everything's abandoned. Nobody's around. When there was a flood, people just left this house. They even left their laundry to dry. Wow. They left everything here. Their laundry, their clothes, basically all the stuff they had. They left it all here. Well, windows are still here, I guess. Only the people are missing. All the books are still here. You see there's some kind of mud on the floor here? Yeah. That's silt from the river. So this was all flooded? Yeah. You see it even on the walls. Oh, so this was the water level. Well, you can see how high the water rose. It was up to here. An amazing sunset on Magadan's icy beach, on the shore of a huge ice floe. Soon it will be all covered in ice. By the way, the ice is really strong, cars can go on it, and fishermen, so that's pretty cool. I'm freezing, but I'm at the beach. Do people swim here in summer? Yeah, sometimes. Is the water warm? Very rarely. How warm's the water usually in summer? It can get up to 14 Celsius when it warms up at low tide. So 14 Celsius is considered warm. Of course, there'll be brave ones ready to swim in 10-degree water as well. All of those abandoned huts, those are the remains of Nuclear Fishing Village. Now, that ceased to exist back in the 1970s, back when the herring population crashed. Why'd it crash? Oh, it was later discovered that because of climate characteristics and undercurrent changes that herrings stopped coming to the area. Oh, I see. That's including Japanese pilchard. These are the traces of the fishing industry of Kolyma. These are pools for the fish? It's something like fish salting vats. They should have been finished with wood from the inside. So picture fishing boats coming here and pumping their fish into the sumps using this large hose sleeve. Then the fish were sorted. In the 1950s, there were fishing plants like this all over the Okhotsk coast. One plant every 50 kilometers. There was so much herring here. Locals love fish and seafood. This isn't surprising given Magadan's location and the low prices on seafood. So I decided to try the crab here. You should pull on it with both hands, like this. Done. All right, now it's all yours. This is Hanasaki crab. It's said to taste better than Red King crab. It's more expensive than the Red King one as well. All right, look, this is better than in Moscow. Why don't they cook like this in Moscow? I've seen towns that were dying. Magadan is not one of them. Although it is surrounded by ghost towns, you can feel that locals are trying to save their city and make it better. But still, it's hard to say what the future holds for this area. After all, people keep leaving for an easier life. All the same, I hope you enjoyed my trip to the Magadan region and you learned something about the far east of Russia.
Magadan is connected to the rest of Russia by only one road, which was also built by Gulag prisoners. It runs through Yakutia, one of the coldest regions in the world. I've been there too.
We started our trip from Yakutia. It is one of the most amazing regions in Russia. Yakutia is the largest region in Russia. It's 9 times bigger than Germany, 10 times bigger than Italy, 5 times bigger than Ukraine. If Yakutia was an independent state, it would be the 8th largest by area. A lifetime may be not enough to visit every part of the region. In March 2021, I went to explore the northeastern part of Yakutia and a part of Magadan region. That's where the notorious Kolyma Highway and the Pole of Cold are located. A legendary place, Kyuba Cafe. People put their stickers here. Those are mostly from motor rallies. I've put mine here as well. Kyuba means crane bird in the Yakut language. They drew with them as they could. It's one of few places along the highway where you can get connection and use internet. Well, not now. There must have been some kind of breakdown, so the internet doesn't work. It's a good idea to bring several SIM cards when you are traveling to such places. Different network providers might function better in different regions, so you have to alternate accordingly. It's getting warm. Now it's minus 30 degrees. Minus 30 feels pretty warm here. I took off my hat, unzipped my jacket after minus 45 last night. Today feels like summer. Was it a long trip? No, we had a long shift before. How are you doing this year? What about the weather? Tell me everything. It's my first time here. I'm amazed by everything here. It's usually cold in December, January. Now it's warmer. It's usually minus 60. What's your job again? We are mechanics at the mine. Coal mine? Gold mine. It seems a bit dangerous to me. Isn't it pouring out? It's broken there, you see? So I tied it with straps. What could I do? Unload it? I have to haul it. You have to go to haul it, so you find your ways. If your car breaks down, you come here. Does it happen so often? Every day, every year. What do you do in life? I mine for gold. Is there a lot of gold? It depends on where you're working. Some people are lucky, others are not. Is there gold prospecting going on? Sure. Annually. There are a lot of gold deposits in Yakutia. These dams are all along the road. They are caused by gold panning. There's a river here and dumps like this everywhere. Everywhere you look. Usnera is a rather large urban-type settlement in the eastern part of Yakutia. It is the administrative center of Oymyakonsky district, along with Verkhoyansky district. It is believed to be the coldest permanently inhabited region in the northern hemisphere. Annual mean temperature is minus 13 here. It was built by prisoners in the end of the 1930s. Just like most of remote towns in Siberia, there were always trouble with supplies here. Food was in shortage, the mortality rate was high both among free citizens and prisoners. TV became available here only in 1970s. Majority of population is involved in gold mining. However, people have been leaving the region recently. The population dropped by half since the beginning of 2000s, by 3 times since 1989. There are less than 5,000 people left in Usnera. Prisoners worked with overburden of the gold mines, built houses, roads, all the infrastructure. It was prisoners who initially built almost everything here, under the supervision of free citizens. They performed hard labor. The schedule was extremely busy. The target results were unrealistic. They had no equipment, right? They had some equipment, but they treated it with a lot of care. Machines were considered more valuable than humans' lives. People working at construction sites or outdoors became goners pretty fast. The term goner was used for a person fully exhausted by hard physical labor. They were losing weight, they suffered from dystrophy, vitamin deficiency, they needed rehabilitation. Lucky ones got to the hospital. Meals were a bit better there, Patients also got to have some rest. They were doing so-called light labor, meaning work that was easier than their usual one. Doing these light works, they recovered a bit and then they were sent back to the camp. According to different sources, there were between 105 and 165 Gulag camps in Yakutia during Stalinism, with a total area of 1 million square kilometers, 1/3 of the whole region. 350,000 prisoners have been brought to Kolyma by 1942. Mortality rate was reaching 25%. That's how Russian novelist Alexander Solzhenitsyn described it. The Kolyma was the greatest and most famous island, the ferocious extremity of that surprising country of Gulag, which, though the term's geography scattered out as an archipelago, was in terms of psychology fused into a continent, an almost invisible, almost imperceptible country inhabited by the prisoners. Presidential suite of the best hotel in Ust-Nera. Wow, what a luxury! Look at these colors. Look at this picture. The walls are the color of fresh grass. A desk, a double bed, a mirror, 2 charming lamps over here. There's a flower shop on the ground floor of our hotel. I thought I would be bored here without a plant, so I've bought a plant. I'll put it here. This is the most luxurious hotel in Ust-Nera. A single room costs $40 per night. I love their choice of colors. Just look at this brick red hanger. Check out the amazing bathroom. This pink shower curtain, it's a tub, but it's also a sink. Here is a toilet. Really nice. Stranger things are happening in this hotel room. This mysterious cable goes somewhere. It bypasses the picture here. It seems like some clever scheme. I was surprised when I moved the curtain. I saw that the cable was in fact an antenna. There's numerous ice blocks behind the window. There's another one here, and here it looks like a refrigerator. The actual fridge is open, and it serves as a heater because it's warmer inside than in the room. I'm whispering because here's a hostess in the hallway, and she gets mad if people are speaking loudly. It is nice in your town. It's a river, a riverfront. Of course, there is. Go straight and you'll see. Is it far? Can we walk there? Of course. What's the temperature now? Minus 45. Minus 45. I'm not used to these temperatures, so it's hard to breathe. Wow, it's minus 45. We are in Ust-Nera. Amazing place. Wow. So guys, we are in Ust-Nera. It's located on very edge of the Yakutia region. It's super cold here. This is Ayumikonsky district, the famous pole of cold. Ust-Nera is a small urban type settlement with population of 5,000 people. They used to be 10,000 in better times. People are mining for gold here, in this freezing cold environment. We left the hotel so early in the morning to enjoy this beautiful scenery. Even here, at the edge of the world, there is a standard plastic playground. They have conquered the whole country. Let's come closer, but from here it looks like Lenin pumping water. Lenin? It's Lenin. Look at his trendy hat. Lenin being very strange. This is the main spot of Ust-Nera, the Great Patriotic War Monument. It was sponsored by a private company to mark the celebration of 70 years of the victory in World War II. There is a sign at the entrance saying that any vandalism would be considered as an extremism. There's even a private security company guarding it. I wanted to discuss the artistic style of the monument with you. But I will not to offend anyone by chance. I have some questions about this whole memorial in terms of design. In terms of the idea behind, I have no questions. Any vandalism would be considered as extremism and will be punished with fines, penal acts, and also physically. I wonder what they mean by punished physically. Will they spank the bastard right here at the riverfront? Ust-Nera settlement got its name from the Nera River, which flows into Indigirka here. Indigirka is a great Yakut river. There's also a salad named after it. After the end of the Great Patriarch War, there was a camp here. Its prisoners were building the highway. Since a lot of people died here, the highway is often referred as the Road of Bones. However, there are no real bones in the road, and there never were. You know, some people say that prisoners were buried right beneath the road. It's not true. Permafrost is a serious obstacle for building roads in these kind of regions. In taiga, in tundra. In order to avoid land subsidence, logs were laid out beneath the road. The logs are still there. They become visible sometimes when a grader is removing the surface while leveling the road. So the logs become visible and it might look like bones on the road. Maybe that's where the saying Road of Bones comes from. The Kolyma Highway is around 2,000 kilometers. It's mostly a dirt road. Now some parts of the road are surfaced with asphalt. It is planned to spend more than $1 billion to repair the highway. Even though living conditions here are not attractive, people from all parts of Russia keep coming to the north to make money. However, in recent years, the flow of workers has significantly decreased. In the 1980s, high salaries used to attract around 20,000 people to Yakutia annually. Today, less than 4,000 people come to work here. How long have you been working here? Only a half a year. Only half a year? That's a lot. How long do people usually stay here? Usually for a year. They come to stay here for a year. Yes, and then it depends on you. Workers have to take a 15-day break. You can choose to spend your days off and go to the city. So you get a paycheck on a card. And here you're provided with all these essentials. Yes, everything is delivered to you. So the food is delivered to you for the whole year. How cold was it in winter? Minus 58? It was minus 58. I was talking to my mother on the phone saying it's a bit warmer today. She asked how much warmer. I replied, minus 48. She was shocked, like, you call it warmer? It has been minus 55, minus 57 for weeks. Of course minus 48 is warmer. What's the temperature now? It's super warm now, maybe minus 30. What about night? It was minus 47 at night. It's getting warmer now. These weather stations were built in the 1940s when Soviet aircraft were delivered to the USA. There is a black wire along the road. It's for the internet connection? Yes. I thought it was a joke, so the wire is just laying on the ground. What if someone cuts it?
So, no, people aren't lying when they say that Russia is a harsh and cold country. In its northern and eastern regions, people live in extremely tough conditions, and not everyone can handle it. Some cities, like Vorkuta, are slowly dying and emptying out. There's no work anymore, and people are moving to warmer parts of the country. Other cities, like Magadan, are trying to develop, but they still face a lot of problems. The cold hardens people. It forces you to adapt and shapes the way life works here. Write in the comments, do you think you could live through the freezing winters of Murmansk or even Yakutia? And which place in Russia would you like to see to experience real life in this country? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.